So I want to thank you, Mheshimiwa. I will be very brief, and I'm happy our captain, our chair, said that we must, as workers, be involved in all political activities and campaigns, and if there are any other formations of any committees, these workers should be part and parcel of those arrangements. Unajua siku hizi maneno imebadilika kidogo. Me am KANU, you know very well. Sisi wakati wa KANU tulikuwa tunaenda kwa Moi, ukienda usubuhi anasema na tuwe umetembea namna gani wapi, hata ka briefcase. Tena tunakutana na wengine wafula wa Msamia, nao wanatoka huko tena na briefcase. Tulikuwa tunakutana hivyo. So campaign za siku hizi zilibadilika na zilibadilishwa na our third president Mwai Kibaki. And some people call me, you are a member of deep state. There is nothing like deep state. And the Honorable Prime Minister is here. I can hardly move from my place in Kajiado and meet President Uhuru Kenyatta at will or as I wish. It's not easy. But as I told you in our meeting, it's a commitment. It's a commitment to make sure in whose hands are you people going to be. It's a total commitment. As a person whose mandate stems from a pressure group to pressurize for a change that is positive, change that is relevant, change that can protect working men and women in this country. That is why I am fighting, I have been fighting as a person, as a Atwoli, to make sure before you joined me, to make sure that we are understood. And I started in 2014. Because you people, as from responsible trade union movement, you must be aware that who is coming to manage your economic affairs of your country. Will we be able to put up or put in some mechanism that can allow our economy to grow or to spur economic growth and hence employ more people, improve terms and conditions of service of our members? When I look around, there is no other person other than His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. Na Mungu akikusaidia, Mungu anaenda kusaidia. And I want to thank Sister Rosa. Hakusema if. Maybe in my speech there is nothing like if. I am a bad loser. There is nothing like losing. I don't lose. And I don't join any persuasions that is going to lose. I hate being weak. Nobody wants to be associated with a weak person. We are winning. We are winning. We are winning. Na tukishinda, Baba atatusaidia hii kitu inaitwa SRC. SRC, when we welcomed it, it was an advisory role. Now it has centered itself in management of industrial relations practice within public service unions. Hindrance. And our law convention number 87 and number 98, it gives you freedom of free collective bargaining as enshrined in Article 41 of our Constitution on CBS. No hindrance in between, and we are anchored at the International Labour Organization where I serve as a Raila governing body member. So the SRC is an illegal, amorphous, an organization if it's not operating on an advisory role. So it's supposed to stop any CBA that has been mutually entered into between the parties. Yes. Yes. And I think I know our incoming president will look at it from that perspective. The other area is strengthening of social tripartism. Workers, employers, and government. And I know we will do that to narrow the gap. Abana kama tulivyo sasa, where the minister can sit and his group, they organize their own people for Geneva without involving employers and workers. And I think somebody should be able to tell them, but since we have only 2 to 3 months for our incoming president to come and make changes that will be favorable to working men and women in this country, we can put up with that. And the other area in the memorandum is in the constitution we are reflected somewhere that workers wao wanakuwa nominated katika bunge. Now we don't want to go, Your Excellency, through political parties. We need to have our own constituency so that these people meet and say, welcome, Madam Governor Charity Ngilu. We need to have our own constituency where you will be able to nominate your own representatives to parliament, not through political parties, not through my Kanu political party or another political party, or Wangara's ODM. Your Excellency, nataka kukuacha, tumeuliza, sote tumepata tabu juu ya COVID, and we lost a lot of people, including the chairman of my union. We all suffered. Hata sasa nilikuwa nikasirike juu ya mambo ya petrol lining up. But I have been told by my treasurer, who has received information from Canada and US right now, even there is a problem. People are lining for petrol in Canada right now. So this is a universal problem, may be caused by, though other may be holding, expecting prices to go up, but they should ease this problem of petrol so that we don't line up for petrol in this country. Mambo ya NSSF na NHIF. Your Excellency, we know people who took money from NHIF. They are walking scot-free. And it is obvious. The government made budget allocation of 6 billion Kenya shillings kwenda kwa NHIF to serve our police officers, to cover. That is why we are eagerly waiting for you with your Baba care that will be different from what is happening at NHIF now. Na hiyo pesa ikachukuliwa, na wale waliochukua wanajulikana, na ndio hao wanasema sana mambo ya corruption, and what 6 billion went into the hands of people at NHIF, National Hospital Insurance Fund. NSSF, to may appoint the lady you have had here, Rosa Mamu, the Minister Chelugui, the Permanent Secretary Engineer Chumo, and other 4 people in the system have refused to gazette her. We have gone to court, we have adulted the business of the NSSF. Simply because wanasema sijui nini, no explanation. And that is workers' money, which is 120 billion. I was on that board, no any single cent got lost. They want a weak representation on the board so that they can get away with this 120 billion shillings. These workers will not accept that. Lastly, I know the other things you will be able to read. Utajua kila kitu ambacho sisi tunataka, tumetengeneza memorandum yetu. We will hand it over to you at appropriate time. But I can assure you, as I said 2014, that William Samoei Ruto will not be the president. I have repeated on special occasions, including on the media and what have you. That still links into my mind. And to me, that is the way. And you are going to get there, and we are going to get there, all of us, tukimarch na wewe pamoja. Please, it is our sincere request that let these people, workers of this country, the Republic of Kenya, be in the center of your system and your government, so that they will be able, as your soldiers, to protect you, Your Excellency. Lastly, we welcome the ILO Convention 190, which gives us fair approach on both sexes, both men and women, to limit the gender harassment and violence against our own men and women. If that one is ratified by Kenya government, we would have completed our journey towards our sisters and brothers who are harassed on a daily basis from their various places of work up to the house. It is pathetic in this country that people, whatever you want, you must bow to things that lead you to Ruto's economy of bottom up. Who wants to see somebody's bottom down? So these are some of the things that this ILO convention addresses. May I take this opportunity with a lot of humility and very humble to invite the incoming 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He's a data, he has information of all of us and history. You are welcome, sir.
Asante sana, you may be seated. What Atwoli did not say is, he didn't say shenzi sana. So, Mr. Secretary General, viongozi wa wafanyikazi wote ambao wamefika hapa siku ya leo, hamjambo. Kabla sijasema chochote, nimejua niko hapa na wote ambao wamekuja na mimi. Nataka wasalimu nyinyi tu kidogo, alafu mimi nitasema yale machache niko nayo. Sawa? Nitaanza kwanza na mwenyekiti wa campaign secretariat ya Azimio, gavana wa Laikipia, Nderitu Murithi.
Thank you.
Alafu atafuatwa na Professor Nyang'o.
Asante sana. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the second Prime Minister of the Republic, and without doubt, the 5th President of the Republic. My colleague, Governor Nyang'o, Daktari Francis Atwoli, Professor Makao, viongozi wa labor movement, hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. Soba. Eserian Pogin. Shokona. Karam. Akam. Mureyaseo. Mureyaseo enge. Muga. Mujipigia makofi naona Wakenya wote muko hapa. Your Excellency, I will only make 2 points, I think. One is to recognize the amazing role of the labor movement around the world. And I'm glad, as Nadome said, that you, as a labor movement, have taken a view about the future of your country. And that is the way, really, in many countries across Europe and elsewhere. Manake, the labor movement, as you point out, 2.5 million Kenyans. I think when you stand to speak, all of Kenya listens, and I congratulate you for having made the right choice. Mujipigia makofi. And it is not just in driving politics, it is in driving policy. It is in driving policy. Because we say, I think it is a colleague of Professor Nyang'o who teaches political science at Yale, who said that politics without policy is empty. It is rhetoric. And I think when you look in the country, that's what you are seeing. Our colleagues engage in a lot of political rhetoric. But we as Azimio, we are interested in politics with policy inside it. And because the SG mentioned the ILO, if you are a student of history, you will have known this report from 1972 by the ILO about the Kenyan economy that dealt with wages, incomes, and inequality. And the reason they were doing it is because the economy was growing, but it was not creating enough jobs, even as it was growing. And they called it jobless growth. Now, we, as Azimio, we want together to build an economy that is creating jobs, and not just any jobs, meaningful jobs for all Kenyans, well-paying jobs for all Kenyans, jobs based on technology and jobs that are looking to the future. So we are really pleased to have the opportunity to come and say jambo and to thank you for declaring your support for the 5th President of the Republic, Raila Amolo Odinga. So, as to what my neighbor asked about your involvement in the campaign, I welcome it, and I think after Mkubwa speaks, we shall sit to agree na kupanga so that we campaign in every corner of the Republic and make sure that we elect the 5th President of the Republic. And now allow me to invite my colleague, Governor of Kisumu, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. Karibu sana.
Asante sana mwenyekiti wa Azimio la Umoja. Asante sana kiongozi wetu Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga the 5th na Francis Atwoli brother zetu, who has led the trade union movement in this country with the eagerness and strength it deserves. Asanteni sana. I just want to say one thing, maybe two. One, that we appreciate and recognize the role that the labor movement in this country has played in the development of this country, and to begin with, in the achievement of independence of this nation. Had it not been for people like Makan Singh and T.J. Mboya, who are known unionists who combined with the other nationalists, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Jomo Kenyatta, we would not be here today as an independent nation. One of the reasons why they did this was because they laid primacy on the unity of Kenyans to achieve independence. Marx once told workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. I would tell Kenyans today, Kenyans of today, unite. You have nothing to lose but your disunity. The Prime Minister has laid one important emphasis on national unity. Why is national unity so important in Kenya today? Because we know that rule of divide and rule is what has taken us behind in our development from independence to today. The game of divide and rule in Africa is what has kept Africa behind by the imperialists from independence to today. And the Prime Minister lived through this, and he knows that if we do not unite, may we dwell in unity, peace and liberty, plenty cannot be found within our borders. And workers are the productive class. Brother Atwoli, thank you so much for uniting these people, because they are the productive class of this nation. And we need you. Having that quality and having that experience, we need you to support the 5th in bringing the 3rd liberation of this nation. That is economic liberation, of which you are the centerpiece. Azimio. If we don't plan to unite, we will plan to fail. Those who do not plan to develop, plan to fail. And therefore today, as a former Minister for Planning and National Development, I want to call upon you. Let us plan to succeed by supporting the fifth in bringing to this nation the third liberation, which is the economic liberation of Kenyans as a whole, bila ubaguzi wala ukabila. Sawa sawa? Inawezekana? Asanteni sana. Let me take this opportunity, therefore, to invite my party leader, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the fifth President of the Republic of Kenya. Makofi kwake.
Hiya. Now he's inviting me, yet I'm the one who invited him. To come to talk to you guys. But then, I know, this meeting should have taken place earlier. My brother, my shemeji, Francis Atwoli, had invited me about 2 months ago. But because of other commitments, you have kept on postponing. Until last week he said, this one is now cast in stone. Tuesday, the 12th, he must come to talk to the workers. And today we are here. Asanteni sana. So na Swahili wasema ati hayawi huwa. Sasa tumefika siku ya leo, and I'm happy to listen to workers, representatives, and their concerns. Professor has told you about the role that the union has played in the history of this country. We were there, we were young boys in that period of time when you had the KFL, at that time, Tom Mboya, as the Secretary General. You had got the Dock Workers Union in Mombasa, then Dennis Akumu. You had the Railway Workers Union. All those are the unions here, which were very key in agitating for independence of this country. But what happened here was not unique. It happened also in other countries, in Tanganyika, in Ghana, then Gold Coast, in Nigeria, all over Africa. The trade union movement were the pioneers in the struggle for independence of Africa. So trade unions are therefore very, very key. And post-independence, also the trade union has played also a very important role up to today, where we are today. But then it is global, all over the place. You go to Britain, you see the role that the Trade Union Congress has played, United States, and so on. Peter has told you about what Karl Marx said, that workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. This is important, that you unite, because otherwise you will be chained permanently. This is because the society was evolving from a pre-industrial society, which was basically feudal, to industrial revolution that came, and formal employment then came with it. Now you had got the aristocrats who were owning the means of production, and themselves therefore determining how much a worker was going to be paid. There was a lot of exploitation of the working class in that period of time, until the unions grew up, came up, and people were able to agitate for better conditions of employment and living. So this is a historical process that has taken place across board up to where we are today. And now we now have a formal structure. You've got a tripartite arrangement. You've got the workers, you've got then the government, and then you've got the employers. There, a formal arrangement how you engage and how you negotiate so that you don't have a situation where there's too much exploitation. Companies are reporting big profits, billions and billions of shillings, yet they are grumbling about paying peanuts to workers. This is something that should not be happening. But most of the time, those who own the companies, who own shares, would like to maximize their profits. And that's why it is important to have a union that will ensure also that workers don't lose out in this. But what kind of society do you want to create? When they were fighting for independence, remember very well, they were saying that we want Mzungu to leave, Africa take over, so that we can be able to confront three major enemies of our people: ignorance, poverty, and disease. Those are the enemies which were identified at that time. Ugonjwa, ujinga, na umaskini. But then where are we today? 58 years down the road, those major enemies are still just there. They're still there. Some of them have even grown stronger in terms of poverty. We have done something about literacy, but not where we should be. But poverty is still there in our country today. So how do you deal with this? We must create a society and conditions that will enable our people to create wealth. This is very important. You see, in our national anthem, first stanza says, God bless this land of ours. Justice be our shield and defender. We dwell in unity, peace and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. Final, plenty be found within our borders. That plenty was not going to drop like manna from heaven. It was going to be created through the sweat and toil of the people of Kenya. So we must create the conditions through which people of Kenya can create that wealth. Enable the people of Kenya to create that wealth. How do you do it? Empower them. But through education, see, then after that education, conditions of employment where they can be able to create wealth. Create wealth. This is what has been missing. This is where we have failed. And this is where we want now to run with supersonic speed. To create conditions. First, we talked about education, and we've said that every child born in our country will get an opportunity to acquire quality education from nursery, primary, secondary, tertiary, up to university education. And when they finish their education, they're qualified, they should be able to access jobs. The jobs where they can be able to earn proper, decent salaries, to enable them to have upward social mobility, to change their socio-economic status, and also be able to support their parents. This is very important. And those who want to do business should also have an opportunity to access capital so that they can begin to start up their own businesses and have an opportunity to grow those businesses so that instead of becoming employers, they can become, employees, they can become employers. This is another thing that is important. Then, in terms of health, we were talking about creating a condition where people can be able to access health services when they are sick. You're talking about availability accessibility and affordability. The people. That's where you come up with what you call Baba Care. Baba Care. So in terms of employment, you need to give people opportunities. In other words, you allow the private sector to grow. Private sector must be able to grow so that it can create more employment. Because people are sometimes looking at public sector. Public sector. Sisi hatuna permanent secretaries, sisi hatuna ambassadors, sisi hatuna directors, parastatals na kadhalika. I tell them public sector employment is so limited. The entire public service, that is all civil servants, the police, the military, the county government, employ a total of about 700,000 people. 700,000 people are the ones that the public sector is employing. And those positions are not vacant. They are all occupied. Vacancies only occur when somebody dies or somebody retires. And that is about 10% of the total. Out of 700,000, 70,000 per annum. But every year, we churn into the labor market about 1 million people. Those leaving schools at primary, at secondary, at colleges, at universities. About 1 million people. If those people were chasing 70,000 jobs, where would they be? So the solution is to ensure that the private sector grows and creates more employment. This is the most important thing. So that's why we must encourage the private sector and remove all the impediments that are making it difficult for private sector to grow. Things like infrastructure. You guys all know. The infrastructure is a major impediment to investment in this country. A unit of electricity costs 14 cents, US cents here in Kenya. In Egypt, it is 3 cents. So most of the manufacturers will migrate to Egypt and go and manufacture in Egypt and export back to Kenya. You're exporting jobs to Egypt. You're exporting jobs to China. You find all these goods from China coming to your market here. In my earlier incarnation, I was an entrepreneur in the industrial area. I've been a worker, I've been an entrepreneur. Industrial area was very busy. Those factories employing 500, 1,000 people. Today it's a distressing sight. They have become warehouses. From manufacturing to warehousing. Basically storing containers, carrying goods from China. So we've exported our labor to China. We need to change this here. And not only retain those, but to create more employment here in our country. This is very, very important. Then, you go to Singapore. Somebody leaves a university or leaves a college or whatever it is, after has been trained, they've got skills, you are employed. The moment you are employed, that letter of employment alone is enough guarantee for you to get a house. You just take it to the housing department, that letter of employment is enough for you, you'll be able to get a house, a 2-bedroom house. If you're a bachelor, if you're married, you get a 3-bedroom house. And you live there, if you live in a 2-bedroom house, when you get married, you can go back through the same scheme and get a bigger house. Just that letter of employment alone is sufficient. Well, what they have done is to build more housing. Because that's how you move your people to the middle income status. The middle class is growing. So affordable housing is very, very important. And this is housing for workers. Not those who can afford to buy, those who earn more, will go to the other schemes where they buy houses for leisure and so on and so forth. But basic housing, affordable housing, and this is something that was not properly understood when the Jubilee government wanted to introduce it. A housing levy. That housing levy is actually meant for workers, for the low-income people. That's why it's called low-income housing. And if you do that, you'll be able to actually create more wealth down there and more and change the status of the workers down there. So this is something that actually should have been promoted by the trade union. Coto is the one who should be leading this process. I have a discussion with my brother there, and this is now a work in progress. It's an issue that we needed yesterday. When you get there, we'll roll it out with the concurrence of Coto, and we'll ensure that UIM members are the major beneficiaries of that scheme. We will ensure, of course, Madam talked about zero tolerance to harassment, not only on women, but of men. That goes without question. Zero tolerance to any form of harassment or any form of violence against any Kenyan citizen. You know that violence at work has been prevalent a lot. And this is something that we really want to bring to an end. And also gender-based violence is also been on the increase in our country. Something that we cannot tolerate. And you have situations where when women go to report violence against them at the police station, the police are just laughing at them. Ati mimi nilikuwa nimeshikwa na huyo jamaa, anasema wewe unimfanyia nini? Wanacheka tu. Those kind of things we must change. And we'll digitize crime reporting so that women do not have to go to a police station to be harassed by men there. Okay? We will, of course, the issue of representation on the board of NSSF, that should be automatic, because that is workers' money. You don't have to negotiate with anybody. That is a worker's right. The workers have got a right to go and they'll be there to ensure that their money is not misused or misappropriated by people who have no interest of workers at heart. So there are issues that we sit down and discuss with workers. Because workers are the wealth creators. That's where wealth is created. That's where the rubber meets the road. So we will basically, it will be a relationship of constant dialogue and engagement, because what we really want to do is to achieve the Kenyan dream, which I've mentioned to you. The Kenyan dream is in our national anthem. A prosperous country. Plenty is found within our borders. In the Bible, the country where the plenty is found is called? Sio Raila linasema. Iko kwa Biblia. That's the Canaan I said I was going to take the people to. Because it's there that plenty be found within our borders. So we will deal with issues of want in our society, a country which is caring, which ensures that there's no excessive exploitation of the people, but also we don't just want to be crumbling here for the smaller piece of bread. You see, when people are just, with the problem we have here, everybody wants this piece of cake. But nobody's talking about how to grow this cake. They're all more concerned about how to eat it. And people are cutting each other with the knives here. Talk about nobody's talking how to make the cake bigger. Us here in Azimio, we are talking about growing the cake. Make it bigger so everybody can have something to eat. Tusiwe tu hapa ati wewe ulikula jana, leo sisi siku yako kukula, wewe lala njaa, mimi nipate kukula. Everybody must have a square meal on a daily basis. And it can be done if we agree that we will work together very hard to grow this cake. And if we grow this cake, everybody will be happy. All our workers will be happy. Because everybody will know they have got a shelter. Nobody is living without a shelter. And if you go and look at those workers in Singapore, in Malaysia, even in Korea, and so on, look at how they have been able to transform their country. South Korea was equivalent to Kenya in 1963, economically. The GDP of South Korea and Kenya was the same. The population of South Korea and Kenya was the same. The level of literacy was the same. The per capita income was the same. Major economic indicators, Korea and Kenya, the same. Now, 58 years down the road, Korea's economy is 50 times bigger than that of Kenya. 50 times bigger than that of Kenya. When I was Minister for Roads, I went to Korea to ask for a loan to buy construction equipment. They gave me 50 million dollars loan. And I got equipment from there. The excavators, the graders, the compactors, the tippers, all those major road moving machinery I got from South Korea to here. I took them to various districts in the country. They are all manufactured in South Korea. Samsung, you have in here, Samsung. LG, Hyundai, Daewoo, are all manufactured in South Korea. Here you're still struggling to manufacture a needle. See? So we must think out of the box as a country. We must compare ourselves, benchmark ourselves with other countries and ask, what did they get right which we got wrong in Kenya? If you do that, then we'll be able to change our country. If you don't, another 50 years down the road, you will still be here. Talking about ignorance, poverty, and disease. I just want us to begin a new journey from the 9th of August this year. And when we start, we will be constantly consulting. But we begin by actually putting the structures in place. And you will see after 100 days, 100 days of Baba's government will show you exactly what Baba's government is going to do in the next 5 years. Asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki.
Sorry, before we move to the next session, His Excellency, the Prime Minister, it's always a tradition after all those nice speeches, assurances, and comfort that when you assume the leadership, you will give priority to workers. And also the good speeches by those distinguished guests that accompanied you allow us to have Honorable Robert Duba to give a vote of thanks. Karibu, Robert.
The Right Honorable Raila, today, it's great. You have had
it's amazing. It's not touched on anybody. All this parroting outside there is not part of his subject. That just shows you the difference in seriousness of the person in whose hands you want to let your affairs be dealt with. I leave it to you because you have had it. You have seen him. If he has sense, if he has the energy, if he has the passion for this country. I have followed him for a long time since I was young. In one of his campaigns he said, I don't know that it's 2007 or 2013, there are three things which you must appreciate in me. These were his words. First, for this job to lead this country, I'm able. Bank on that ability to do so. Second, I have the history. You know it. We all know it. He sacrificed his life. He put his life on the line. Who doesn't know? And let me tell you, it should pain you, and it pains me, when the person who has little content walk on the street and say he's a project of somebody. You tell Raila Amolo Odinga shamelessly, and we say he's somebody's project. Surely, for God's sake, the gods are looking and they are listening. The gods will punish you. Be careful. Be careful. You know, you must at least talk to your conscience, even in the course of campaign. Najua kwetu tunasema where I come from, hata wakati ikiwa ngumu namna gani, na huko kwetu kuna vita ya shifta. Unapigwa na shifta, unatoroka kabisa. The bullets are raining on you. That is the highest moment of a scare in your life. Wanasema hata wakati huo usijiharie, kwa sababu ukifanya hivyo, people are very good at recording such kind of history. Hiyo pahali na hiyo tarehe hawatasahau. Wanasema wewe mtoto wako alizaliwa lini? Siku ile nani alijiharia? Unakumbuka? It will be used as a date for reference. And I want those who are looking for power now, opposing his candidature as a president. First of all, I consider it, somebody said the other day, it is Nelson Mandela moment. I believe it. If Kenyans are serious people, and I want to beg them, for your own sake and the sake of your country, just look back a little bit. What is all this literature outside there against his candidature? What are the contents? You have had it here today in the speech of half an hour or 1 hour. So I want to plead with you, and I want to thank you. Have the patience, you are right, Honorable. Continue with the energy that God has given you, so that at least we get a test in the course of your life as you wind up your leadership history, so that we get a test and get a blessing from you. I want to thank you so much, and I want also to thank my brother Francis Atwoli. Kama si kelele ya huyu mzee, particularly the labor movement, there's nothing there. Na nilimwambia also, where I come from, you know the thing a thief is supposed to fear ni kelele. Ukiona mtu anaiba, atatoroka. Ataki bunduki. Just tell them you are aware. Hey, kuna mtu hapa. And that's what he has been doing. He doesn't have any other power. The power to speak for the people and for the country generally. And I told him many times, don't keep quiet, because you keep quiet will perish. Kabisa, particularly labor movement. And I want to thank him so much. That persistence, that consistency of points and spirit. I want to thank you so much. Professor Nyang is the altar of, at which the reasoning power in economics and so on is placed for our country. Sometimes people talk on TV for 3 months. He comes once, appears on nation TV, something, and clears all those. How he does it, I don't know. But I appreciate how he does it, with facts and figures. My governor, Murid, you are another one. I was in UDF together with him. UDF. He was opposed to positions taken by, so-called the home front. Even today, he is known to take the bull by the horn. This is how you find your place in history. Don't give up, don't fear, don't relent, don't blink. Because that's what life is. That will be your contribution. I want to thank the General Secretaries for having taken this position. And I am sure you will yield these fruits. The other party, when somebody comes to me, compare this literature today we got here, 10 minutes ago, from the Right Honorable, and compare the talk out there, whose main concern is about something being upside down. God save us. If I have room to make a vaccine in Kenya, and it was possible, there is one that we should do. And that is vaccine against accepting lies. If that can happen, Kenya will be safe for a long time and many years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you and Mungu abariki.
Asante. Thank you very much, Honorable. We wish you all the best. I think with that kind of speech, the Mayale people should see that you deserve that particular position. In fact, when he talked about Sisi Bunduki Atuski, it is true, Honorable Prime Minister. You know where I come from? There was a time, and I know the moment you take over the leadership, you will bring this to a stop. In Baragoi, Your Excellency, for you to sleep at night, you must first hear gunfire. Because if you sleep mapema, you will still hear gunfire and you will be awoken by the gunfire. So to us, the gunfire is a lullaby kind of. That is in Kenya. We are optimistic. Tuko na imani, those of us who are campaigning for you, we are telling people that once you take over the leadership of this country, gunfire will not be lullaby again in that part of the country. Now, all these that we've discussed, the memorandum that our SG took us through, we just did some brief. We want to have a small ceremony so that it is in the public domain. It was not just hot air. This particular document that we all did collectively will now have to formally hand over this particular document to His Excellency, the Prime Minister. Please, the media, tupige makofi. Come. Mketi chini, media wapige. Mketi chini tafadhali. All workers' issues, Kenyan workers' issues are in that document. Come 9 August, the first 100 days, we know His Excellency will be implementing part of that document. Tumpige makofi. Okay. Now we want to wind up with a photo session. His Excellency the Prime Minister, if you don't mind, I'm advised that it will be done here, where we'll all stand behind. You get seated, we stand, all the General Secretaries to come, we stand behind, yeah.